Hey guys, how's it going? We're gonna tie up the Stimulator today. This is not an overly complicated fly, but also not the easiest fly to tie, but it's got all sorts of different parts to it it's a good one to practice on because it'll give you a chance to practice a whole bunch of different little techniques that are applicable to all sorts of other stuff. So I'll go ahead and get started. This is probably bigger than I usually fish. This is size 8. This is a Daiichi 1260 hook in a size 8. It's the natural bend hook. I don't know how important. You can tie this on just a regular standard dry fly hook. I think is probably fine. The first thing we're gonna do is we'll go ahead and get our thread base down, and we'll take the thread all the way to the back of the hook and get ready to tie in our tail. So the tail is going to be natural deer hair, and I've got a brand new little batch of deer hair. This will be the first time I've used it. So I'm going to grab just a tiny clump. I don't want this tail to be very big, and you'll notice when you cut this stuff off, there's all sorts of under hair. So you want to make sure you pull all that stuff out before you put it into your stacker. Otherwise, it doesn't always stack the best. We'll put that into our stacker. Take just a couple taps, and there we go, just like we wanted it. If there's any short hairs, so what I typically do is I'll kind of grab the end of this and pull out. These ones are all a bit too short. And the reason why we don't want those is because when I tie this in, I'm going to give it just a couple light wraps, and then I'm going to pull the thread all the way up to where basically where the abdomen of this body, the body of this fly is going to stop, and we're going to tie it down there, and then we can trim those guys off, and now wrap everything down tight. And that should give us, when we do get ready to wrap the abdomen, that'll give us a nice kind of uniform body to wrap over the top of. All right. There's all sorts of different colors you can tie this thing in. I'm going to tie this one with a kind of a yellow abdomen, and then it'll have kind of an olive thorax. So for this, I'm using yellow antron yarn, and the key, I think, with the Stimulator, at least the way I fish it, is it's got to have things got to be able to float, because I most often will fish this in pretty fast water. So having as much stuff on here that floats really well is definitely a positive. So antron, I like antron, and then we're gonna add a little piece of copper wire. This will act as our rib. Tie that all the way up to about where the thorax is going to be. And now we can take our antron and we're going to start to wrap the body. That should make a naturally tapered body up to about probably 2/3 the hook length. Tie that off. And I've seen these tied without hackle over the top of the abdomen, but like I said, I want this thing to float as best we can, so make sure we put hackle over the abdomen. I clip off when I do this. Trim back the hackle fibers, so when you tie that down, it gives the thread something solid to grab onto, and it Makes it so it's not gonna slip on you. Now we'll wrap our hackle back. Try to keep those as evenly spaced as you can. And then we'll grab our wire. I'm gonna bring the wire back through. And again, try to keep the wraps of wire evenly spaced as you come back through. There we go. And we've got a few really strong wraps, and that should just helicopter off. Trim off the hackle. Always make sure you keep those little hackle pieces. I've got a little bowl with all my hackle tips, because those, as you start to tie different flies, you realize that a lot of them call for hackle tips, and having a bunch of them laying around is kind of handy, better than throwing them away too. All right, last part is we're gonna tie in our wing, and I'm gonna use elk hair for the wing. And I just so happen to have a brand new batch of elk hair as well. So I want the wing to be, use quite a bit more hair than I did with the tail. This is what's gonna help the fly to float. Again, pull out all the under hair. Put that back in the stacker. It's going to stretch about to the back of the tail. When couple wraps, tighter as you go. And then we can trim that back. This doesn't have to be perfect, because we're gonna tie over the top and dub over the top of that. So there's our wing, and I'm just gonna wrap over that and create a fairly smooth thorax. All right, and for this, I'm gonna add in the dubbing. I'm gonna do a kind of an olive. This is kind of a crystal dubbing. And we wanna get this wrapped as tight as we can, because the tighter that dubbing is wrapped around the thread, the better the fly is gonna float. Get the dubbing too loose, then it just gives the water a lot of different places that it can work its way into the dubbing, and then it just doesn't float very well. Let's get that one a little bit tighter. And then build that up a little bit more. I want the thorax to be a little bit bigger than noticeably bigger than the abdomen. Get that relatively tight. There we go. And the last part is to tie in our hackle, the legs. And this one we want should be, I always try to make it just a little bit bigger hackle than what we used to wrap the abdomen. And in this case, I'm using a grizzly hackle. So this only takes a handful of wraps. And I'll bring that to the front. Pull everything back Make sure nothing covers up the eye. There we go. We can add in a whip finish. Alright, there it is. Add a little bit of head cement, and that is a really simple little stimulator fly. See if we can spin that around so you can get a look at it. There it is. Hope that helped, and good luck out there. Thanks for watching.